Good afternoon, everyone. I am Barry Vesser from the Climate Center. The Climate Center is a clean energy and climate policy nonprofit in California. We are working at speed and scale solutions to climate change. We believe that what happens in California not only influences the rest of the United States, but the rest of the world. So if you're here for Subnationals stepping up on climate in the United States, you are in the right room. I have to start by saying that having a climate denier in the White House is a setback for some of our climate protection ambitions. We have to be honest about that. But a setback is not a catastrophe. Department of Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm said at COP earlier last week that the administration's big climate spending initiative, the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, generated, and I should say how big that was. It was a really big deal. $364 billion worth of big deal. Has already created 900 new jobs, 900 new factories in the United States, 400,000 new jobs, about 60 new gigawatts of electrical capacity will be on the grid that weren't when that law passed. And she said that she thinks, and I agree with her, that since 81% of those funds went into Republican districts, that it is highly unlikely that the governors and representatives of those districts are going to want to see that money clawed back. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. But let's just say that it's not likely that it's all going to go away. I do think one thing that we may see is that the rhetoric may shift from climate investments to economic development. California Natural Resources Secretary Wade Crowfoot delivered a similar message last week, saying that California will stay the course on climate ambition. Sam Assefa, the director of the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation, who's with us today, thank you, Director Assefa, for being here, has also arrived here to deliver a similar message and will be talking at a press conference later this week. What states do in the United States matters a great deal. California is the world's 5th largest economy. New York is the 10th largest economy in the world. And these and other states, as they implement their investments, they will have a huge influence on the rest of the United States, and they will be able to demonstrate that these kind of investments are good for the economy, yes, but they are also better for air quality, better for public health, in short, better for everyone. Today we have representatives from 4 states who are going to share news of recent climate accomplishments and/or things that they are working on that are promising. The underlying message is that a huge segment of the U.S. remains committed to ambitious climate goals regardless of who is in the White House. And I'd like to start with Assemblymember Matt Haney from California. Assemblymember Haney represents California's 17th Assembly District, encompassing the eastern side of San Francisco, and serves as the Assembly's Majority Whip. He's also the chair of the Fentanyl, Opioid Addiction, and Overdose Protection Select Committee, and on the Local Government Organization, Health, Judiciary, and Appropriations Committee. In his first full year in the state legislature, Assemblymember Haney successfully sent 12 bills to the governor's desk and got them signed into law. Several of these bills tackle issues like addiction and opioid crisis, prioritizing housing. He created a Rental Deposit Fairness Act, limiting security deposits to a maximum of 1 month's rent. This is his third COP. Assemblymember Haney.
Well, thank you, Barry, and it is great to be here representing California alongside, I know, a number of other representatives from states who wanted to be here to make it very clear that we are not going back when it comes to bold, aggressive action to confront the climate emergency. We have been here before. This is not the first time where we have had leadership in the White House that is contrary to the steps that we know that need to be taken. And we are more prepared now for that reality. Over half of the country's populations are in states that have already joined the U.S. Climate Alliance that represents the majority of our country's GDP. Within our system, we are a federalist form of government, which means that the states have tremendous responsibility and power to take action themselves on clean energy, on conservation, on innovation to confront the climate emergency. Just this year, at the same election that tragically a climate denialist was elected to our highest office nationally, California passed a $10 billion climate bond, the first ever climate bond passed in our state, which will make unprecedented, bold investments in confronting the steps around climate adaptation, around the wildfires and droughts that we're experiencing, as well as investments in renewable energy. And we are taking steps right now to make sure that the work that we have done to lead, to set some of the strongest standards, not only in the country, but in the world, around zero emissions vehicles, around air quality, around our cap and trade program, that all of that can continue and even grow in the coming years. California, as you heard, is the 5th largest economy in the world. We have 40 million people. We're the largest state. We are going to continue our climate leadership. Our governor has already called a special session. He's calling us back early as legislators to prepare for this reality. And we are accelerating some of the waivers that we need from this current administration, 8 waivers that are in front of this administration that we want to see approved by the end of the year, including the zero emissions vehicle standards. And as a legislature, we're going to take early action to prepare for the work ahead, to defend at every single level the progress that we've made. I just returned from the COP in Colombia. We've adopted 30 by 30 goals. We've been here before in making sure that as California, as the states that are gathered here, that we are going to aggressively do our part and support the partnership and the collaboration that is needed in the international sphere to be able to contribute as the state of California to the progress that needs to be made. And as all the folks here will say, we are devastated by the election results, but we are not deterred. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Haney. Next, we're going to hear from Nevada State Senator Pat Spearman. Dr. Pat Spearman, who is a state senator and also co-majority whip, is also a retired U.S. Army lieutenant colonel. Senator Spearman is regarded as one of the most progressive members of the Nevada Senate and has introduced bills that provide equal pay for women, support LGBT rights, and support veterans. Before being elected senator, Spearman served in the United States Army for 29 years, was a pastor, and held several public service positions. Dr. Spearman is a member of the elected officials of Protect America's National Climate Emergency and Energy Security Task Force. The goal of the task force is to mobilize lawmakers in disadvantaged communities, corporate and government financing, businesses and NGOs on the ground who have proven climate solutions to equitably implement climate opportunities offered by the Inflation Reduction Act. Dr. Spearman holds several degrees, a Bachelor of Science in Political Science, a Master's of Divinity from the Seminary of the Southwest, and a Doctorate of Business Administration from Walden University. Senator Spearman, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, and thank you all for the invitation to be a member of this august panel. In Nevada, We're at ground zero in the climate crisis and water insecurity. We have heat waves that threaten the lives and the livelihoods of thousands, especially in communities that have been underserved and overpolluted. With the Inflation Reduction Act funding, we started to right these injustices, and we will not go back. I have served as President pro tempore for the Senate since 2022, and in that position have had the opportunity to oversee several bills that have come before our body. And I will tell you this, our commitment is unwavering when it comes to making sure that we do not go back, and we do not recede from our commitment to fighting climate change. IRA incentives has poured $10 billion, that's billion with a B, into the electric vehicles, battery, and clean power industries, and nearly 20,500 clean energy jobs have been announced in Nevada since the law's passage. More clean energy jobs have been created in Nevada since the IRA's passage than all but 6 states in the United States. So we're used to fighting policies to protect our people from the danger of the climate crisis. In Nevada, our slogan, our motto is, we are battle-born, battle-tested, and we are battle-ready. That's who we are in Nevada. It'll be difficult for anybody who wants to dismantle the provisions that we already have in place. Why? Because it means the dismantling of economic security for thousands of Nevadans. And if anyone thinks that they're going to come in and take away those jobs, those opportunities, and pull us backwards and make us look like we do not believe that climate change is in full effect, here's a quarter. Get another thought. Bottom line is developing and implementing serious energy policies to counter current and ongoing effects of climate crisis is more than a slogan or cute saying on a bumper sticker. In Nevada, we're serious about making changes for the betterment of Nevadans. In northern Nevada, we're taking advantage of geothermal energy resources. In the middle part of the state, we are developing opportunities for wind. And in southern Nevada, we have more sunshine there than they have heat in hell, and we are bound and determined to use it. Our energy policies reflect our commitment to mitigating and eliminating the disastrous effects of climate change. Let me be clear. The Biden-Harris administration has been a very steady and forward progressive partner in this fight. They understand the effects of continuing decades of dependence on fossil fuels. They also understand the economic multiplier of clean energy jobs. And as I said before, we're not going back. In Nevada, we have managed to bring back solar. We have geothermal. We also are looking at bio. We're looking at geothermal. We're looking at a number of things, and we're not looking at them in isolation. We're looking at them in ways that we might incorporate all of them so that we maximize our RPS. We maximize the opportunities. In Nevada, we may be a small state, but we're big enough to fight. And we are big enough to fight our determination and our commitment to battling climate change. And as I said before, anyone who thinks they're going to come into Nevada and dismantle the policies that we have passed and that we have lived under for more than a decade, here's a quarter. Buy another thought.
Thank you, Senator Spearman. Your remarks remind me of something that Assemblymember Haney said to me earlier, which is, we are not in the same place we were in 2016. The economy is in a totally different place in the United States in terms of investment in climate priorities and renewable energy. Our next speaker is New Mexico State Representative Andrea Romero. Representative Romero's district represents Española and Pojoaquí Valleys, northwest of Santa Fe, and also 4 sovereign pueblos. Representative Romero is a lawyer and an entrepreneur who supports small businesses. She is a member of the elected officials to Protect America, New Mexico's Leadership Council, and is actively working to phase out fossil fuels in the state to ensure New Mexico transitions to 100% clean energy. She is working to increase job training and apprenticeships, create wind and solar jobs, and expand broadband. She's a defender of water resources, the environment, and underserved populations, immigrants' rights, and survivors of sexual violence. She sponsored the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women bill that developed a task force in 2019. Senator Romero earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science from Stanford University and her law degree from the University of New Mexico School of Law. Representative Romero, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to talk about our state of New Mexico, where we have been there long before the United States was ours. And now that we are part of this crisis, this existential and certainly something that all of us are feeling in the state of New Mexico, as where all of our entire congressional delegation are Democrats, where we have historically been dealing in oil and gas for years, seeing that the top of the ticket, the White House holder, will now potentially be threatening our state. We know that as a sovereign state, we're going to hear a lot about state rights. Well, New Mexico is ready. Not only have we been dealing with oil and gas, we are the second largest oil and gas producer in the United States. We put together in the 1930s a sovereign wealth fund that we now sit on $58 billion of to pay for our state government. And in the next 15 years, we no longer have to wait for oil and gas to boom and bust any longer. We have made historic investments in our energy future. And renewables is what we've invested in the most, having the second largest solar energy potential in the United States, and we are going big. And not just that, the reality of those investments are transformative. We are also, the vast majority of our population, over 50%, are now solely rooted in renewable energy dependence. Next to Iowa, we're number 2. We're looking to be number 1. In the space of energy conservation, water conservation, the nexus between how it is that we manage our drought as the high desert and the Chihuahuan Desert, we are going to work with not only our 29 tribes and pueblos to understand how it is that we can continue to protect their sovereignty, how we work as a state to ensure that our climate future is secure, that when you come to New Mexico, you are safe from not only what's going to happen with climate, but all of the other issues that we know will come down the pike from the Trump presidency round 2. And we have been a sanctuary state not only for climate migrants, but migrants that have to leave certain states to not even access the health care that they need, the rights that they have. In New Mexico, we know this is all linked together, and the attacks that will come will be more fierce, more intense. And as we look at Schedule F coming down the pike that are being prepared for by the Heritage Foundation, and what it is we're going to see with the federal government being dismantled, where we are highly dependent on federal programs in our state, where we run the national labs for the United States, we run military bases, that the people of our state will also be targeted under Schedule F. I would love to talk to you about what Project 2025 is going to happen in New Mexico, but we, as a state, have basically said Project 2025 will not take effect. Like, we can be a nice boundary area for the fact that we are a place that are never. Not only have we already set a precedent for going in the right trajectory, that going back isn't even a place that exists any longer. So for what comes down the pike, you will see New Mexico hopefully leading in the ways in which not only our commitment to renewables, our, again, relationship with oil and gas continuing to change. And so as we move into the future, we will be holding the line on all of the issues that we know the Trump administration will be bringing, and our people will continue to be sovereign and protected.
Thank you, Representative Romero. Next is State Senator Joe Nguyen, who is the leader of Washington State's clean energy transition, championing policies like the Climate Commitment Act and investments in renewable energy, EV infrastructure, and grid modernization. As Vice Chair of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, he prioritizes bold, equitable climate action, demonstrating how states can lead on decarbonization when federal progress stalls. And he has news of a recent victory in Washington. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Barry. Welcome everybody as well. Honor and privilege to be here with such tremendous advocates within this space. I am State Senator Joe Nguyen, and I chair the Environment, Energy, and Technology Committee in Washington, which means a lot of the climate policies, if not all of them, go through my committee. I also have the dual honor of being a vice chair of Ways and Means, which means I got to also spend all the money that was raised within our carbon programs as well. And this last cycle in Washington State, we saw our state be the only state that became more progressive in this last election, the only state that went further left. And part of the reason why I believe that happened was because we were defending climate policies on the ballot. There was a conservative hedge fund manager who was new to Washington State, did not like that we were passing progressive policies in the last few years, and decided to put a number of initiatives on the ballot. So Democrats in Washington State had to do something that they've really not done before, and that's actually brag about all the great work that's being done in our great nation, in our great state. And because of that, we feel the victories that we saw on the ballot reflected a lot of the work that we did. When you look at things like climate policies, what we found in the polling was actually the two groups that were more likely to ensure that we kept our framework of the Climate Commitment Act were young people and older Republicans, which was kind of an insight that I did not know in my space as well. Of the 49 counties in Washington State, there were 7 on Eastern Washington, which is historically more conservative, that voted to keep our climate policies as well. So not only did we find a program and a policy that worked for us to decarbonize, we also believe that we found a political strategy, an investment strategy that actually makes a lot of sense. So candidly, obviously the national level certainly impacts what we do in Washington. But it was going to be hard no matter what, and it's always been hard. So for us to pass legislation, it's going to have to be coming from the states. We are the laboratory of democracy. A lot of the policies that we saw embedded within the IRA were lifted from California, from Washington State, other jurisdictions, whether it's the low carbon fuel standards, whether it's the CAP programs, whether it's building decarbonization. A lot of that work already comes from the states. So from my perspective, not only are we not going back, as mentioned from other panelists as well, not only are we going to move forward, we're going to move forward a lot faster because we have a game plan. Oftentimes, the way that it works is when a local jurisdiction puts something together, it gives other people that ability to move forward as well. When we were working on the Climate Commitment Act, we know a number of other jurisdictions were doing the exact same. We learned it from California. We learned it from Quebec. We were able to pass policies to ensure that our carbon markets potentially can link at the same time. We've already talked to other jurisdictions, subnationals, even nationals, that want to adopt the same programs. So whether the national level acts or not, certainly that will have an impact, but that progress is not going to be stalled. So the fact that we saw bipartisan support, we had 600 organizations from tribes to farmers to business. Even the oil companies knew that this market mechanism was more advantageous for them, and they also want to decarbonize. There's certainly a strategy for us to move forward, and it was never going to come from the federal level. Even the IRA, although it was a great policy, was modeled after state policy. So with the leadership of other states and other nations, we are going to keep moving forward. We've passed things like the Clean Energy Transformation Act, so our energy infrastructure will be net zero by 2045. The Climate Commitment Act, we're committed to being net zero by 2050. We are one of the few states on track for us to be able to actually get there. So we're going to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Nguyen. And I want to say that Washington may have started out learning from California, but I believe that they've improved on what California did, and it's time for us to start learning as we look at reauthorizing our own cap and trade program. So thank you for that. We have time for a couple of quick questions from the audience, if anyone has a question. And I do want to say one thing just before we go to questions, which is if you walk away with anything today from this press conference, I hope it is that here are 4 very different states, all of which have climate champions in them, and they're not just the ones who are represented on this stage today, who are going to stay the course. Any questions? Please.
Hello, my name is Kylie Johnson. I'm working on decarbonising trucks in Australia, which is quite a big job. I'm wondering what role private philanthropy has if government won't act. Does private philanthropy have to step up?
So just repeating the question, climate philanthropy, you want to take that one, Andrea?
Go ahead.
I'll be happy to. So I happen to live in the same state as Bill Gates. He's very active in this space. We also have other folks in the technology community that are very committed to decarbonization efforts as well. I will say a lot of the programs that we've passed probably would not have been a reality if not for climate philanthropy in the first place, and also the evangelization of some of those efforts. But candidly, from our perspective, a lot of the people in this space have the liquidity and the ability to de-risk that we're not able to do. So it's a kind of a partnership that we have to work together.
I think in conjunction with the idea that philanthropy can actually hold the line first, can be a little bit more nimble than even the federal government today. We're seeing even through the IRA, we need philanthropy to help nonprofits work through the direct pay program, things that exist for us to be able to see that continuation. I think impact investors, all of those that are working currently in the climate space can do a lot more. And again, the de-risking is going to be critical for that ongoing work when we look at capital stacks that government can actually meet, and looking to the states again to fill in many of the gaps and adapt also very quickly as many of us go into session at the start of 2025. Right, as all of us get sworn in and see this new government. So I think there's a great way for us to open the doors as legislators to see that we're inviting that more so and seeing how we can put these pieces of the pie together.
And I think for Nevada, where we are is in the north, we have a Tesla battery factory that has essentially revitalized the economy of Reno and other small areas in the north. And in the south, in my district, as a matter of fact, we have Air Liquide, which is the 2nd largest hydrogen producer in the world. And so where philanthropy may be a part of it, I think for a lot of the people in Nevada, it's just job security.
Thank you, and I'm sorry, but we are at time, so if people have questions, I think our panelists will be around just outside the room after this for a few minutes, so if you want to follow up with them then, that would be great. And thank you all for coming. Thank you all so much. That was great.